Look, what I'm about to say, what we're going to discuss in this episode is more than likely going to piss you off. And there's nothing I can do about it. The truth hurts, and it is what it is. But I hope in a way it's a big wake up call because there's a segment of the RV industry that has so much misconception, has so much misunderstanding, and it's thrown things off balance in a big way. And that's a problem, not just for dealers, not just for manufacturers, but for the consumer base. The consumer base is the most important part of the entire RV industry, period. I don't care what your name is or who you are. I don't care if you're Bob Martin at Thor. There is no Bob Martin, CEO of Thor Industries, if there aren't RV consumers. If there isn't people going out and buying travel trailers and buying motorhomes and buying fifth wheels, etc., without that, we don't have me. We don't have Josh the RV nerd. We don't have Liz Amazing. We don't have Wingman Wisdom. We don't have Matt's RV reviews. We don't have Big Truck Big RV. We don't have any of that without you, the consumer. But there's so much misinformation about this segment of the RV world that it's going to throw things out of whack. So let's straighten it out. Welcome to HB RV Lifestyle, the podcast. I'm the host, John Levingston, aka the Honey Badger, here to give it to you straight and transparent about the RV business, as well as some other things. Now, what has been thrown out of whack is the entry-level travel trailer. I'm going to repeat that again. Entry-level travel trailer. A lot of you go, yeah, that's junk. Junk. Everything built's junk. Entry-level is what I call stick and tin. Stick and tin is an aluminum exterior with wood constructed. It's a term in the RV industry very common. You see, the most popular one that's advertised is called the Coleman 17B. It's a little 21-foot trailer with two cabinets, a little window, a little tiny AC, a little tiny furnace, tiny fridge, and Camping World advertises it for $12,999, and then they add PDI and freight. It ends up right around 17 grand, no matter how you look at it. So what we're referring to in this episode is anything brand new sold under $25,000, or if it has a slide or a push out, sold under $30,000. It's a price point unit for folks that want $150 or less payment, or in some cases, in the bigger trailers, a $275 or less payment. Or hey, you got cash and you just want something simple to see if you like the RV lifestyle. Now, there's nothing wrong with buying used, and there's nothing wrong with buying cheap. I own a $600 fifth wheel toy hauler. There's nothing wrong with it. I live in it. So I'm living proof that buying cheap is not a bad way to go. Okay? You can also go mid-range, expensive, etc. But because there's this limitation of understanding of what stick and tin really means and what it represents, because all anybody uses is a four-letter word, junk. First off, let me give you an example. So I sold a nice used travel trailer, okay, fiberglass sided, ran $25,000, something that brand new right now that sells around 55 grand. Nice unit. It's this couple's third travel trailer. They started out with a small Springdale. Little, we call it the one, well, I don't know what they call it nowadays, but we used to call it the 170 RD. Little tiny, single axle, big window in the back, booth dinette and little couch in the back, and it's got a side queen bed with a mid bath. I think the thing maybe has 5 total cabinets. It's just so small and it's so tiny. But that's what they started with. And they spent $16,500 brand new out the door, back when things were cheaper before COVID. And they went out and enjoyed themselves. They owned that for 3 years before they sold it privately for around, I think, 10 grand. Then took that 10 grand and bought a 25-foot trailer with a slide. Owned that for about 4 years and said, I'm going to full time, but I don't want, they did all kinds of homework. They have a F-150 that tows 10,000 pounds. And they did all their homework and all their research. And they went, you know what? I'm not going to buy another truck, but we want something bigger that we can go full time in. So they didn't want to break the bank and buy new. So they bought used. And they got almost everything they wanted inside that travel trailer they bought from me. Okay. But he made a comment. I said, oh, it's great full time. He says, yeah, it's great to full time in. But he said, you don't want to buy this trailer until you're ready to use it more than 4 to 5 times a year. He goes, that's where we made our decision to buy an entry-level trailer and step up to something a little bit nicer. Was we only went on 2 weeks total of trips a year for 6 years. Now we're going to go and for weeks at a time. We have the time, we're going to go weeks. So instead of going up for 3 days up to the mountains or a week to, whatever, Death Valley or wherever they decided to go, boom. There it is. That's what entry level is for. It's to enter. Entry level, the first words is enter. Now, you could take that however you want. For some of you have a dirty mind, but you're entering into the RV lifestyle. There are folks that have bought stick and tin used from me for 5 grand, 6 grand, 7 grand, because they don't want and cannot afford to buy a brand new one. There's nothing wrong with that. But again, it's enter. It's for folks with very little down payment and want a cheap payment because they don't want to spend $500 a month, $600 a month on a vehicle that they're only going to use 4 to 5 times a year. So to all those overly negative people that bash Coleman, bash Salem, bash Wildwood, bash Springdale, bash Hideout, yes, I have my top 5, bottom 5. Everybody has their top 5, bottom 5 when it comes to this. But if you are using the unit for 5 trips a year, why are you not starting at the beginning? I always say that no matter what you do, whether you spend $100 or $2 million, you need a toolkit and a sense of humor. Now, I'm going to tell you right now, if any of you come to me with this BS, oh, well, if they built it right the first time, first off, I will challenge every one of you that call these junk to go build one in Indiana. Challenge you. Go beyond the line with all these folks that bust their ass at the manufacturer level. Deal with the phone calls, deal with part shortages, deal with all the bull crap, the baloney that these folks have to deal with on a daily basis. Then go deal with the overhead of a dealership. How about a dealership that has 3 total employees, 4 if you count the owner, and the overhead $70,000? Interest, insurance, bonds. And then go tell all these manufacturers and all these dealers, they're not allowed to make a profit because it's all junk. Go work for one of these. It's the same thing I always say about blue collar jobs. If you want to talk shit about a blue collar man who gets up at 4 in the morning, goes and busts his rear end for his family by turning a wrench or fixing pipes or working on an oil rig or jumping into fires, or for those that are in law enforcement or military that go and put their lives on their line every day so we can enjoy freedoms, go do their job for just 1 month and then go have a different appreciation for it. Everybody does. The janitor who sweeps and cleans toilets, public toilets where people are disgusting and nasty. People cook our food at fast food restaurants, the people that serve us, customer service. Go do their job and deal with the things they deal with on a daily basis. Then, only then do you have a better appreciation, and only then can you complain. Yes, RVs can always be built better. But the better they're built, the more expensive they are. How many of you want a travel trailer that's so well built, it's basically cannot be destructed, nothing will ever go wrong, but the only way you can have that built is if you have a 16-foot travel trailer for $500,000. How many of you can afford that? Same reason why we buy a car. Do we buy all? And by the way, the more expensive the car, the more problems. Let's take something Liz Amazing said and let's twist it, okay? So Liz Amazing one day, and it's not nothing negative, but she said that it should be built like a high-line car. Really? Let's see. Jaguar. There's a joke about Jaguar. You got to have two. One to drive around while the other one's in the shop getting repaired. They say the same thing about Land Rover. Land Rover. Let's see. Ferrari. You know how many people tell you that if you drive a Ferrari past 10,000 miles, that's its lifespan? That car is for show, not for driving? Have you ever heard the term that, hey, you put more than 100 miles a year on a Lamborghini, you're pretty much putting the engine at risk because it's so complicated? Do you know how much money in maintenance that you have to do on an extremely high-line car to keep a high-line car running properly and not breaking down? Get out of here with this mess. Yes, there are major problems that occur. There's major problems that occur with Honda cars, Toyota, Lexus, Hyundai, Kia, some of the most reliable cars in the world. Subaru, one of the best-selling cars and best-valued cars in the world, has Armageddon level, lemon law level problems. I guess at the end of the day, it's okay to buy something that you're going to use and enjoy for a couple weekends or a week at a time. That's not the best quality unit. You know, I use truck campers as an example. Everybody complains on the internet that truck campers cost more than a lot of big destination trailers or fifth wheels or toy haulers. And nobody believes that it costs more money to actually engineer and build one. They only look at the materials. They don't look at the labor. But that's not what I meant. What I meant is sometimes if we want to do the truck camper lifestyle, the slide-in truck camper, sometimes we have to have a sit back and a think moment where we realize that we don't have, how do I put this without sounding like a jerk? sometimes having a champagne taste with a water budget doesn't work. I watched somebody who wouldn't buy anything less than a Tiffin. So they had a $20,000 cash budget, didn't want to finance anything. To me, more than likely, they couldn't finance anything. 20,000 cash budget, wouldn't buy anything less than a Tiffin, basically a Phaeton. Okay, if you know what a Phaeton is, anything from Phaeton and above. So he bought a 37-year-old diesel pusher motorhome that was barn kept, and it is a big fish story. Okay, now I've always said there's nothing wrong with buying cheap, but when you're buying a 37-year-old diesel pusher, you're buying something that inherently is going to have problems and going to be hard to find parts. Oh, but it was better built. No, it wasn't better built. Now, if it has the old Caterpillar motor with the side-mounted radiator, that's the conversation for another day. We can have that debate. That's a great debate to have. Side-mounted radiator versus rear, Cummins versus Caterpillar, versus John Deere. Those are great conversations. In gas, the whole conversation was Workhorse, which is the 8.1 Chevy, versus the V10 Ford. I mean, all that is great conversation and great debate. But reality is that we are at a significant point in the world where we don't know, like, why. Okay. Guys, it's going to sound just like I'm going to sound like a dick. I just watched a guy who bought actually a very nice small travel trailer with slides, a 24-footer. Spent 45 grand on it. Figured out, too small. A year in, too small. Got a trade-in value, has had it on Facebook Marketplace for 6 months. Cannot sell it. Brand new unit. Told me max he's willing to lose is 6 grand plus tax and license. So basically 7 grand, or basically 10 grand. All he's willing to lose. Can't see himself losing more money than that. He has had people come by his house and offer him $20,000, $18,000, $19,000. And he's like, I spent 45 grand on this trailer a year ago. Why are people lowballing me? They're not lowballing you. They're not. People are not understanding that trailer because they have a budget. If you started out with something entry level, you started out with something that wasn't that great a quality, maybe a Keystone Hideout or a Grand Design Transcend, something that's not that great a quality that was 20 to 25 grand, maybe 29 grand. Then when you sold it for 20 or 21, wouldn't have felt like a big old kick in the ass. And then you could have gotten into something bigger. Stick and tin is a graduation system. It enters you into the lifestyle and you graduate out of it. And if you can't afford a new one at 17 grand or 25 grand or 30 grand, there's a lot of used stuff out there that's newer, financeable, with minimal down, that you can buy for 8 grand, 9 grand, 10 grand. There's stuff out there. So until next time, remember, RV always stands for toolkit and sense of humor.